Okay, let's walk through a quick install of Ubuntu Server. Now, this is Ubuntu Server 20.04. Now, like most operating systems, this will change a little bit based on the version that you are installing. So, this is 20.4. Other editions will be a little bit different, but the basic idea is going to be pretty much be the same. So, after booting off the CD, you'll come up with this to pick your language. And I'm going to go with English. And I want to install Ubuntu Server. So I'm just going to hit enter and this will start my installation process. Now, it's going to take a minute here to load the environment that we're going to use for the actual installation. By the way, in this install, I am installing locally off of an ISO file into my virtual machine. So this would be very similar to installing off a CD or USB drive or something like that. I'm not using their cloud deployment system to install into a virtual machine. I'm doing it like I would do a on-premise install. Okay, welcome. So we're going to pick our language. We're going to install in English. So I'm just going to hit enter. Now, first thing here, and this won't happen if you're not connected to the internet, but if you are, it's going to look for a new version of the installer. And if you want to, you'll see down here at the bottom, let me use my little mouse to try to point it out down here. I can continue with the update to the new installer, continue without updating, or go back. And I'm just hitting my up and down arrow keys to navigate this. I can also tab to navigate, which will also take me up to my help. And if I hit my space bar, you'll see some information on that as well. Escape to make that go away. And then tab back to here. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue without updating for the purposes of this demonstration. If I were doing this on a production server, I would probably go ahead and do my update first. Update to the new installer before doing it. But since I'm not, I'm just going to hit enter to continue without updating. Select our language for our keyboard configuration. I'm fine with that, so I'm just going to hit the space bar or enter to say that we're done. Here is our network connection. We're good with that. Now, if I want to, I can use my up arrows here, and I can come up here and change my Ethernet adapter and edit IPv4, IPv6 information, add a VLAN tag, anything like that, even create a bond between multiple network adapters. So I'm good with just this one, so I'm going to hit enter. I'm not using a proxy server to get access to the internet. If you are, here's where you'd put your proxy server address. But if you're not, you just hit enter to continue. Ask for your mirror address. Now this is another one of those things that they should pop up. Whether you've got internet access or not, on the assumption that you are going to get internet access at some point, and then you want to use that mirror to do software updating and installation. So I am perfectly content with the default one. I could use a different archive if I wanted to, but seeing as I'm not using any specialized archives, I'm just using the standard ones that are maintained by Ubuntu, this will be just fine. Now, the next step is going to be dealing with storage. So I can either use the entire disk, or I can do down here a custom storage layout. Now, I would do that if I was going to do multiple, two reasons. Number one is if I was going to do multiple OSs and multi-boot between them, then I would need to use a custom storage layout. Or if I wanted something other than their default layout. Now, the default layout is probably going to be pretty good for most things. There are a couple of other settings here, and that is, do we want to do this as an LVM, Logical Volume Management Group, or not? Current standards are probably going to be to use LVM. It gives you some real benefits, which we'll actually talk about a little bit later on. And then I also have the option down here to encrypt. Now notice the default is to use the entire disk. By the way, if I had more than one disk, they would pop up here and I could pick which one I wanted it to go to. To use LVM and to not do encryption. If you do encryption, then you're going to, and I just hit the space bar to activate that setting, then I'd need to set the passphrase and confirm it in order to access that encrypted volume. So since I'm happy with all of this, I'm going to tab down to where it says done, hit my space bar or enter. Now this is what it's going to create for me. I am going to have, let me come up here so we can see this. I'm going to have a root mount point, a boot mount point. You'll see our available devices we're creating in a logical volume group called Ubuntu VG. We're going to talk about that more later. You can see the volumes that are being used and the partitions. Now, if you don't want to customize storage, this will work for the vast majority of what you want. If you are doing something funky and you want to customize your storage, then you'd use the custom storage thing we were talking about on the previous screen. But this is just kind of an update of, hey, this is what we are going to be doing. So I'm going to hit done, and it says, are you sure you want to continue? Because, it's going to wipe out your disk when you do this. And I'm going to say, yes, I want to continue. All right, it's going to ask for name, server name, and username. Now, this is going to be your primary user. So this user is going to have root or administrative access. This is going to be my Bassett 311 demo machine. Notice when it comes to the username or the machine name, there are certain things you can't do. I just hit the space bar because that's an invalid character. And it tells you that you can only use lowercase letters, numbers, underscore, and dashes. I'm going to go ahead and set my name as the username because I don't feel really creative here. And set a password real quick. And then hit done. Okay. I can choose to install OpenSSH or not. OpenSSH is a daemon or a server that will allow you to connect. It's kind of like Telnet, except it's running SSH, which means it's encrypted instead of plain text like Telnet. So that's something that we will install sometimes if we want to do remote access to this server. I don't want to do that at the moment. That's something we may play with a little bit later on, but I don't want to activate SSH now. So I'm going to go ahead, tab down, and hit done. Now, this is just a heads up. This is something that is very, very useful if you are doing remote admin of your server. And remote admin doesn't necessarily need to be, from a remote site. It just means not from the console. So if your server is in a locked, secured server room, you might want to use SSH to allow you to access it from your desktop rather than walking back and forth to the server room all the time. So it's very convenient and something that on a production server would probably be worth doing. We're going to save that because we might set it up a little bit later on. So this right here on the previous screen, for that matter, is something that don't show up if you don't have internet access on your server when you go to install it. This is a list of things that Ubuntu says, hey, these are, or Canonical, the manufacturer of Ubuntu, says, hey, these are things that we'll very frequently add to a server install. And so if you want them, you can use your arrow keys to move down, hit your space bar to check or uncheck, and then you can pick the options that you want to be auto added to your server. Now in this case, I don't want any of them, so I'm just going to click on Done. Okay. Here is our install. Now that install was actually running in the background on my previous screen. And you can see here it's already pretty much completed our install. And I have two options. Here I can view my full log or I can cancel my update and reboot. The installation actually is very quick. And a big reason for that is because the server install doesn't include a desktop or GUI environment. It's a command line only environment. So you might have noticed if you download the ISO, it's about a 1.2 gig download. Whereas if I remember correctly, the ISO for the Ubuntu desktop is about 5 gig. So a much smaller install, and that's great because you get a smaller footprint, you have more memory, more processor time left available for other things. So once it gets done, it automatically starts downloading and installing the updates. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that at the moment. So it goes to cancel the update and it should go to reboot. Now, if for some reason your system gets hung at this point, there actually is a way around it. You can tab up to your help and then go to enter shell, and from enter shell or from the shell you can enter the power off command, which will shut down the server. So while it's sitting here canceling the update and rebooting, if you get impatient with it, you can short circuit the process that way. Now, better option is to go ahead and let it continue to run and cancel the update and reboot on its own. But that doesn't always materialize. Now, for the sake of time in this video, I'm going to go ahead and enter my shell, and then I'm going to issue the command power off, and that will take down my server. And so you'll see it shutting down now. And then once it's shut down, all I'll have to do is power my system back on to regain access to it. So let me bring this down, and we'll go ahead, and there we go. It just finished. Now, it's failed to unmount the CD-ROM. The reason it failed to unmount the CD-ROM is because I'm using a virtual machine. Let me go ahead and go back to full screen here. I failed to unmount because it can't actually unmount. It's on a VM. So I'm just going to hit enter at this point, and that finishes the shutdown. Now, to see if everything worked, I'm going to go ahead and continue, no checkpoint. And I'm going to start my virtual machine. Let's go ahead and go to full screen again as soon as it lets us go all the way to full screen. There we go. It runs through the install, or not through the install, through the boot process. Gives you lots of feedback. This information, by the way, can be very useful for troubleshooting startup problems. So it'll finish going through, and it's not quite done yet. Even though it popped up a login screen, it's still doing some background stuff for me. So I'm going to hit enter. Here's my login. And there we go. We are now into our Ubuntu server. Now remember, I said that this has no GUI, which you can see right now we're running command prompt. And it's not just that it doesn't boot into the GUI, it's that the GUI doesn't actually exist. You can install a GUI on it, but most of your management tools for Ubuntu Server are going to be command line anyway. And the idea there is to keep the server relatively light, not tie it up with all of the stuff that it needs for the GUI desktop environment, and to make it a little more responsive. Now, one thing I want to point out to you, and that is you'll see right here 57 updates can be applied immediately. 15 of these are standard security updates. Now that it pulled once it finished the install and it started that downloading and installing updates, because I terminated it, those weren't applied automatically. Had I let that run, those should be applied automatically. And again, in a production environment, that would definitely be the way to go. In this particular environment, we're going to talk in maybe a couple of weeks about doing security updates. So I wanted to make sure that we had some to work with here. But there we go. Our server is now up and running.